Shalom. I'd like to give an all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, the one of the apostles and elders of Green Millstone who rule well, who continue to teach us this truth. All right. And this is part 2 of urban renewal or Negro removal. And this article here is from the New York Law Journal, all right, written by Mike Ryken. And it's an analysis. We're going to hit just a couple paragraphs here. We're not going to spend too much time here. Because I really just want to get to the scriptures mainly, but that's so just so we have some context with some actual some context with some articles, some stuff that's going on. This is urban renewal and assault on black neighborhoods. All right, in city after city, highways that were built to appease white suburban commuters and enabled through eminent domain and the funds of the 1949 Housing Act and the 1956 Interstate Highway Act were shoved through African American neighborhoods, causing surrounding blight and pollution. Amongst the black neighborhoods divided by highways were Trem in New Orleans, in the Brooklyn area of Charlotte, and Overtown in Miami. All right, so these are a couple. It's not just Manhattan. It's just not New York City. All right, it's not just the Bronx, it's not just Brooklyn, New York, but it's also Trem in New Orleans. All right, anywhere there's a major interstate, man. They made sure that they built these interstates in areas where the so-called Negroes lived, where the so-called Hispanics lived. All right, it says the Federal Housing Act of 1949, which was in effect from 1949 through 1973, authorized cities to use the power of eminent domain to clear blighted neighborhoods for higher use. All right, and let's just look this up, eminent domain. All right, because the so-called white man is a very cunning creature, man. There's a reason why the so-called white man is in power, man. And apart from him being the Lord, apart from the Lord giving him, all right, his power, all right, the so-called white man is very shrewd, man. Let's look at it right here. Eminent domain, the right of a government or its agent to expropriate private property for public use with payment of compensation. What is a simple definition? Eminent domain refers to the process by which the government may seize private property with proper compensation, but without the owner's consent. So that means that, let's say you have a house and the government comes and they want to build a highway they're gonna have to demolish your house. The government's gonna give you some money for your house, and then he's gonna build the highway where your house is, and you have no choice but to move, or you can risk being arrested, or you can risk, all these things going on, right? So it says authorize cities to use the power of eminent domain to clear blighted neighborhoods for higher use. All right. Just need to make sure I was recording. For higher use, according to an excellent paper published by the Institute for Justice, Eminent Domain and African Americans, written by Mindy Thompson Phililove, in 24 years, 2,532 projects were carried out in 992 cities that displaced 1 million people, 2/3 of them African Americans. African Americans, who were 12% of the population in the United States, were 5 times more likely to be displaced than they should have given their numbers in the population. Most African Americans were confined because of their race to ghetto neighborhoods. It would appear that 2/3 of the projects, more than 1,600, were directed at African American neighborhoods. This forced more than 300,000 families. This forced more than 300,000 families from their homes. Most were black, a reality that led to James Baldwin's famous quip, urban renewal means Negro removal. All right, so he's the one who coined that term. That wasn't a term that I came up with. All right, it says, unsurprisingly, All right, the condemned neighborhoods were overwhelmingly African American and, to a lesser degree, Hispanic and Asian. In city after city, highways that were built to appease white suburban commuters and enabled through eminent domains and funds from the 1943 and 1956 Interstate Highway Act were shoved through these areas, causing the surrounding blight and pollution. Among black neighborhoods divided, the highways were Trem in New Orleans, the Brooklyn area of Charlotte, and Overtown in Miami. This was the conclusion of Scott Bayer, who wrote How the U.S. Government Destroyed Black Neighborhoods. Catalyst, April 2020. It also had been opined that raising of black neighborhoods was seen as a feature, not a bug, of urban renewal policy. Already aware of the growth of suburban communities, city leaders saw federal urban renewal dollars as a means to reinforce property values downtown by clearing dilapidated housing. This is gonna be let me see. This is gonna be probably read a couple more paragraphs. I'm gonna read this one here. It says in a report in 2018 by the Brookings Institute, the devaluation of assets in black neighborhoods and the case of residential property concluded that black neighborhoods were associated with much lower property values overall, and only some of this effect can be explained by physical characteristics by physical characteristics and neighborhood amenities. Median home values in majority black census tracts are 55% lower than median homes in non-Latino or Hispanic or white census tracts. The Brookings report explains that part of the difference is attributable to quality differences between the housing stock. Lower wealth in black communities means that homes in majority black neighborhoods tends to be older, smaller, and more likely to be attached than homes in neighborhoods with few or no black people. Lower wealth and lower home values further hinder the ability of black homeowners to pay for structural improvements to the home and access mortgage refinancing to pay for those renovations. There are also differences in neighborhood quality that show up in housing price differences. Local schools are often less desirable, at least as measured by publicly available test scores accessible to home buyers in majority black neighborhoods than in non-black neighborhoods. Some other characteristics of black neighborhoods are more desirable, such as access to public transportation and proximity to local stores, but on average, they do not make up for the less desirable features. These structural and neighborhood characteristics explain some of the value penalty to housing in black neighborhoods, which shrink 23 to 55% after adjusting for these factors. All right, now we're going to skip right here in this blurb about Robert Moses. It says in 1949, President Harry S. Truman signed the Housing Act into law and thereby empowered local governments with virtually unchecked powers of eminent domain through a process termed urban renewal. In response to the new law, Robert Moses formed the New York City Slum Clearance Committee and set about demolishing numerous communities that he deemed to be slums. All right, which we already know a little bit about Robert Moses. This man is a flagrant racist, man. It says an article from portside.org specified that in all, Moses would demolish some 2,000 city neighborhoods to these ends, throwing at least 300,000 and probably more out of their homes. As Robert Carroll points in his magisterial study of Moses, the power broker, while only some 12% of New Yorkers were listed as non-white in the 1950 census, at least 37% of those evicted by Moses' projects were minorities. All right. Carroll also mentions that Moses ordered his engineers to build the bridges on the Southern State Parkway low over the parkway, allegedly to keep buses from the city away from Jones Beach. But Moses was no outlier. The highways and public spaces that shape our cities were often intentionally built at the expense of Black, Latino, and other minority Americans. All right. So, the article is pretty long. It goes on. All right. But thus, pretty much the that's pretty much the you know, the gist. All right. So now let's get into the scriptures, man. This is Micah chapter 2, verse 10. It says, "Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest." All right. So arise ye and depart, man. This is why our people need to wake up. This is why we need our people, the Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans. We need you to wake up. All right, we need you to wake up because this is not your rest, man. And as soon as you understand, the quicker you understand that this is not your rest, the quicker you're gonna be in a better place to understand who your enemy is. All right. It says, because it is polluted, it shall destroy you. All right. This place is polluted, man. All right. In every way, shape, or form, man. This place is physically polluted and it's spiritually polluted. It says, it shall destroy you even with a sword destruction. Exactly. So this place is going to destroy you with a sword destruction, man. All right. If you believe in this place, it's going to destroy you, man. All these parks that you enjoy, all right, the highways that you enjoy taking because you can go see your mom early. You can go see your mom faster. All right. These neighborhoods, all right. All the amenities that you love about your city, guess what? All that was built with keeping you away. All right. The so-called white man wanted to keep you away, man. He don't want you in his nice parks. He don't want you jogging in Central Park, Prospect Park. You're not worthy of that, according to him. That's why the scriptures say, "Arise ye and depart," man. This isn't our rest, man. Right now we are in a prison sentence, man. This is on Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 7. It says, "Surely oppression make a wise man mad, and a gift destroyeth the heart." Exactly, man. So oppression is going to make a wise man mad. All right. And our people, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and the people that descend from them, man, we are oppressed. We are constantly being oppressed by the so-called white man, man. And there's very little we can do to stop him. That's why the best course of action is to come back unto the Lord, man. Come back unto the Lord. The Lord's going to take care of us. That's the only way that we're going to be able to overcome this man. You know? So, man, that was part 2. We're gonna get one more article here from gentrification, the new Negro removal program. We're gonna read a couple paragraphs from there. We're gonna hit a few more scriptures in part 3. All right. Until next time, shalom.